the day Lu Ranran died. The world was hot enough to soften asphalt. Her elder sister, Lu Ruyan, lay blistered and delirious in the ruins of an apartment while the fire phoenix she had claimed struggled to contain the flames pouring from his own body. Ranran had survived the first weeks of the heat catastrophe only because Frost, the ice serpent bound to her by an ancient pact, could cool the air around them. Survival had come at a price. Every time Frost used his power, he sank his fangs into Ranran and drained her blood. His venom kept her conscious through every second of the pain. When he later demanded that she lure Ruyan to him so he could devour a compatible human soul, Ranran refused. Ruyan arrived anyway, saw her sister alive, and decided that Ranran had stolen the better guardian. With her dying breath, she urged Frost to kill her. He wrapped his coils around Ranran's throat without hesitation. Then she opened her eyes beside two eggs containing mythical guardians just as their shells began to split. There was no ruined city, no red sky, and no crushing heat. Sunlight streamed through the windows of the old sanctuary where the Lu sisters had spent weeks tending the eggs. A slender young man with silver scales stood beside one broken shell. Near the other, a fire phoenix huddled beneath trembling wings. Ruyan lunged for the silver-scaled man. She cut her thumb on a shard of shell and pressed her blood to his brow, completing the sanctuary's bonding ritual. I choose Frost. You can have the phoenix. Ranran went still. In their first life, Ruyan had recoiled from the serpent and claimed the magnificent phoenix, leaving Ranran with the creature she called ugly. Now her eagerness made the truth obvious. Ruyan had returned too. Frost's black eyes gleamed with recognition. He crossed the room and let Ruyan link an arm through his. Ranran, she chose me. Do not embarrass yourself by clinging to what is no longer yours. He remembered as well. Ranran almost laughed. Ruyan knew that Frost could create cold, but she did not know what fueled that gift. She had never felt his venom turn a single bite into hours of agony. She did not know that his interest in her had never been affection. Take him, Ranran said. I hope you give each other exactly what you deserve. Ruyan leaned close as she passed. The heat catastrophe begins in a month. When you are desperate enough to crawl, I may let you borrow him. Ranran did not answer. She walked to the phoenix instead. He had folded himself into a tight ball, his red gold feathers dull with terror. When she reached toward him, he flinched so hard that his wings struck the wall. Please don't hit me, he whispered. I will try harder this time. Ranran's anger vanished. This time, the phoenix stared at her, and understanding passed between them. He remembered too. In the previous life, Ruyan had blamed him for making an already scorching world hotter. She had pulled out his feathers, pierced his skin with needles, broken his wings, and abandoned him. He had survived long enough to see Ranran from a distance, protected by Frost, and had believed she was safe. I should have found you, he said, his voice shaking. You were the one who sang beside our eggs. Ruyan claimed she had saved me, but I knew her voice was wrong. By the time I understood the lie, the disaster had begun. Ranran crouched at a respectful distance. You owe me nothing, but if you want to leave with me, you can. The phoenix slowly unfolded. In human form he looked young, with copper-colored eyes and a fine line of golden feathers at his temples. You still want me? Yes. And you deserve a name, not just the title of your kind. May I call you Foam? For the first time, light returned to his eyes. I would like that. He transformed, lowered one broad wing, and carried her home through the clouds. Ranran spent the next month preparing for the catastrophe. Air conditioners would become useless when the power grid failed. So she sold what little she owned and returned to an abandoned farmhouse in the hills. She reinforced its cellar, installed insulated doors, stocked medicine and dried food, and collected rain barrels, filters, seeds, and hand tools. Foam used his strength to deepen the shelter and carve drainage channels into the surrounding slope. They built raised storerooms rather than placing all their supplies underground. And they planted mushrooms and shade-tolerant vegetables under low-energy grow lamps powered by a small solar array. The work exhausted him faster than Ranran expected. One evening, after warming the damp cellar, he staggered and caught himself against the wall. Using your gift costs blood, doesn't it? she asked. Fong tried to smile. My own blood. It replenishes when I rest. The answer struck her harder than she wanted to admit. Frost had always claimed that a guardian's power required a human offering. In truth, he had made Ran pay a cost that should have been his. No more hiding injuries from me, she said. We survive together, or not at all. Fong studied her face, then nodded. Together. On the final night before the catastrophe, he showed her a bronze mirror from the Phoenix clan. When warmed by his flame, it could reveal anyone whose blood had once touched its rim. Ruyan had handled it while examining the sanctuary's relics, so her image shimmered across its surface. She was sitting in her expensive apartment with Frost at her side, boasting about how comfortably they would live once the heat arrived. Ran watched for only a moment before covering the mirror. We have our own work, she said. I am done measuring my life against hers. By noon the next day, the temperature had climbed past every recorded extreme. Roads buckled. Transformers burst. Water stopped running, and phone service became unreliable. The reinforced cellar remained cool enough to live in. Fong needed to adjust the temperature only briefly at dawn and dusk, and the rest of the time he slept, ate, and slowly recovered the strength Ruyan had once beaten out of him. 3 days into the heat wave, the mirror flared on its own. Ruyan was screaming. Frost had bitten her forearm, and frost spread across the room as he drank. His venom paralyzed her muscles while leaving every nerve painfully awake. You asked for cold, he said. Cold has a price. Fong snatched the mirror away from Ran. Was this what he did to you? She could not lie. Every day. His wings closed around her, not as a cage but as a shelter. I thought you were safe. Neither of us knew the truth. Ran rested her forehead against his shoulder. But we know it now. That is enough. Ruyan called later that day. Her voice was weak, but her pride remained intact. You must be roasting in that ruined farmhouse, she said. If you beg properly, I might let you stay here. How does Frost's venom feel? Ran asked. Silence followed. You remember, Ruyan said at last. All of it. Then you know I chose correctly. Pain is nothing compared with staying alive. Ran looked around the cool cellar, at the water tanks, neat shelves, and green chutes beneath the lamps. Fong was repairing a torn storage sack with solemn concentration. If that is what you need to believe, go ahead, she said, and ended the call. Through the mirror, they later saw Frost manipulating Ruyan with the same promise. He told her that Ran would soon come crawling back. He ordered her to eat more so that she would have more blood to give him. Ruyan accepted every cruelty because admitting the truth would mean admitting that she had made the wrong choice twice. Ran stopped answering her calls. For several weeks, the shelter worked exactly as planned. Then the sky changed. The extreme heat had loaded the atmosphere with moisture. A storm stalled over the region, and rain hammered the hills for days. Water poured through the drainage channels faster than they could carry it away. The upper storerooms remained dry, but the cellar floor began to flood. Fong flew above the storm to assess the damage. When he returned, his feathers were soaked and his face was grim. The river has broken its banks. The lowlands are already underwater, and the slope below us is beginning to slide. We cannot stay. Ran had prepared for heat, but the new disaster forced a different calculation. Any ordinary high-rise could be surrounded by water or weakened by landslides. Their safest refuge was the high mountain plateau Feng's clan had once used during migration, far above the flood line and protected from the worst of the wind by a ring of peaks. Can you reach it while carrying me and our supplies? She asked. I can reach it in minutes, he said. I flew slowly when I first brought you home because I thought human bodies were fragile. Despite everything, Ran laughed. You could have mentioned that sooner. They packed medicine, seed stock, tools, and as much food as Fong could carry. Before leaving, Ran called Ruyan once. The flood is rising faster than expected, she warned. Your building is beside the old river channel. Get to high ground now. Fong can carry all 4 of us to a safe plateau, but Frost must swear not to harm anyone. Ruyan scoffed. You finally need his cold, don't you? I live on the 22nd floor. No flood can reach me. This is not a bargain. It is a warning. Then kneel and beg. Ran closed her eyes. She had offered help because she wanted no one else's death on her conscience. She could not force Ruyan to accept it. Goodbye, Ruyan. Feng rose through the storm with Ran secured between his wings. The heat eased as they climbed. For one dizzying moment the world disappeared inside gray cloud. Then they burst into brilliant sunlight above it. Floodwater shone across the plains below like a second sea. The Phoenix Refuge lay on a sheltered Himalayan ridge rather than the exposed summit itself. A freshwater spring emerged from the rock. Hardy grass covered the inner valley, and old stone shelters stood beneath an overhang. Feng's clan had abandoned the place generations ago, but their protective wards still softened the wind and kept the air breathable. Ran turned on her phone camera when Ruyan called again. Behind Ruyan, brown water battered the windows of her apartment. Somewhere below, concrete groaned. Come get us, Ruyan ordered. I will overlook your disrespect. Ran showed her the green ridge, the stone shelters, and Feng standing beneath a clear blue sky. We no longer need frost, she said. I offered you a way out before the river rose. You refused. You cannot leave me here. I am your sister. A sister does not have to obey every demand. If the weather clears enough for Feng to fly safely through the debris, we will try to reach you. Until then, get to the roof and signal other rescuers. Ruyan's expression twisted. You are enjoying this. No, Ran said. I am finally refusing to die for you. The connection failed. In the bronze mirror, Ruyan turned on Frost. She struck him, screaming that his power was useless against the flood. He answered with violence, then promised he could freeze a path across the water. Ruyan's hope returned at once. Then take me to the mountains. We will show Ran that we never needed her. Frost smiled, exposing his fangs. I said I could leave. I did not say I would take you. He had drained enough blood. What he still wanted was the soul he had coveted in their first life. Ruyan's spirit happened to resonate with his power. Devouring it would allow him to use his gift without feeding again. Only then did Ruyan understand that every promise he had made was a trap. If you kill me, the Guardian Pact will punish you, she warned. I survived breaking it once, Frost said. I will survive again. No, Feng whispered beside the mirror. In the first life, Ran was not the one who truly awakened him. The pact did not recognize her. This time Ruyan claimed him with her own blood. She is his bonded benefactor. Frost struck before Ruyan could flee. When his fangs entered her throat, Frost raced across the room. The water outside froze in a widening circle, but the ancient pact answered at once. Silver cracks spread over his skin, mirroring the wound he had inflicted. Ruyan collapsed. Frost tried to crawl toward the window, but every movement tightened an invisible force around his throat. Within minutes, both of them were still. Ran extinguished the mirror. She felt no triumph. Only a tired sadness for two people who had chosen possession over loyalty and pride over trust until nothing remained between them but hunger. The storm lasted 9 more days. When the sky finally cleared, Feng began scouting the surrounding mountains. Ran used a signal mirror and a hand-cranked radio to locate other survivors. They found a weather station crew, 3 injured climbers, and a family that had sheltered in an old monastery. Feng carried them to the protected ridge in small groups. Ran organized supplies, treated wounds, and taught everyone to grow food in the sheltered soil. No one was allowed to claim another person's labor, body, or loyalty as payment for protection. The first rule of their refuge was simple. Every gift had to be freely given. Months later, the floodwaters began to retreat. Feng helped establish routes between the ridge and several surviving settlements. His flames sterilized tools, warmed greenhouses, and powered a simple steam system, but he used it only when rested. Ran kept careful records of every demand placed on him, and the other survivors learned to ask rather than command. On the first anniversary of their rebirth, Ran took him to the highest overlook. New fields spread across the valley below, bright against the snow. The Guardian Pact says you owe your life to your benefactor, she said. I release you from it. Stay, leave, or return to your clan. The choice is yours. Foam was silent for a long moment. Then he placed the old bronze mirror in her hands. In my first life, obligation kept me beside someone who hated me, he said. In this one, freedom lets me remain beside someone I love. Ranran's eyes filled, but her smile did not waver. Then stay as my equal. He folded one warm wing around her as the sun rose over the recovering world. The settlement eventually became known as Ember Ridge. Travelers came for its seed bank, clean water, and fair laws. Ranran never forgot the life in which fear and family loyalty had trapped her, but she no longer lived inside that memory. She had survived the heat, the flood, and the cruelty meant to destroy her. More importantly, she had built a home where neither love nor survival required anyone's blood.